The Filipina ascension had just been humbled by an Olympic gold medalist in Toronto. The exhaustion was visible, the disappointment palpable. But the moment Alex Eala stepped off her flight in Cincinnati, something unexpected happened. Thousands of fans had gathered at the airport, not to watch a match, not to see a trophy, but just to welcome her. The scene went viral, and the Eala Effect had officially arrived in Ohio. The flight from Toronto to Cincinnati was short, but for Alex Eala, it felt like a journey into the unknown. She had just endured the most humbling loss of her North American swing, a brutal 6-4-6-0 demolition at the hands of Olympic gold medalist Belinda Bencic. The exhaustion was visible. The second set bagel was a harsh reminder that even the most incredible runs must eventually come to an end. She had admitted after the match that she needed a break. "I definitely will take maybe 2 days off," Eala had said, laughing through the exhaustion. "I need to get a haircut. I haven't gotten a haircut in a while. My nails are grown out. 2 days." That's all she could afford before the next tournament. The WT schedule waits for no one. As her plane descended into Cincinnati, Eala braced herself for what came next. Another city. Another tournament. Another chance to prove herself. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared her for what awaited her at the airport. The scene that greeted her was nothing short of extraordinary. Thousands of fans had gathered at the Cincinnati Northern Kentucky International Airport, not to watch a match, not to see a trophy presentation, just to welcome her. The moment she stepped off the plane, the roar was deafening. Philippine flags waved from every corner of the terminal. The chants of "Let's go, Alex" echoed through the airport corridors. Families who had driven hours from across Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana had come just to catch a glimpse of the Filipina sensation. The scene was so overwhelming that it quickly went viral on social media. Eala Mania, the fans called it, and it had officially arrived in Ohio. The reaction wasn't surprising to those who had been following Eala's journey. Just days earlier, tournament director Carl Hale had described her impact in Toronto as unprecedented. "We've never seen a player ranked outside the top 5 have this type of effect," Hale had said. The 10,000-seat SoBi Stadium had sold out in just 30 minutes, a feat only Serena Williams had achieved in the last 20 years. But this was different. This wasn't a tennis stadium. This was an airport, and the fans hadn't come to watch her play. They had come just to see her. For Eala, the reception was overwhelming. The fatigue that had plagued her in Toronto seemed to melt away as she waved to the crowd, her face lighting up with gratitude. After the loss to Bencic, she had questioned whether she had anything left. Now, surrounded by the love of her kababayan, she had her answer. "Maraming salamat sa mga kababayan natin sa lahat ng ginawa niyo mula sa Washington hanggang Toronto at sa lahat ng gagawin niyo pa," Eala would later say, addressing the Filipino community that had embraced her. "Parati kayong sumusuporta at nagdadasal. Parati kayong nagpupuyat kaya tuloy-tuloy lang akong magtatrabaho." The airport welcome was more than just a viral moment. It was a declaration that the Eala Effect had crossed state lines. The Filipina sensation had become a movement, and Cincinnati was ready. As Eala made her way through the terminal, surrounded by a sea of Philippine flags, she knew that this was just the beginning. The Cincinnati Open was next. And with the support of her fans behind her, she was ready to write the next chapter of her incredible journey. The airport welcome in Cincinnati was just the beginning. When Alex Eala finally made it to the Lindner Family Tennis Center, she discovered something that would have seemed impossible just a few months earlier. She was the No. 17 seed at the Cincinnati Open, her highest seeding ever at a WTA 1000 event. In fact, it was the highest seeding of her entire career at this level. Just 18 months ago, Eala was ranked No. 140 in the world. She was fighting through qualifying draws, scrambling for wild cards, and dreaming of the day she would be seeded in a major tournament. Now she was walking into one of the most prestigious tournaments on the WTA calendar as the 17th seed, a privilege that came with a first-round bye and the respect of the entire tennis world. The journey to this moment had been nothing short of extraordinary. Eala had captured her first WTA Tour title at the Mubadala DC Open in Washington, defeating an Olympic champion, the defending champion, the world No. 10, a 4-time Grand Slam champion, and finally world number 3 Jessica Pegula to lift the trophy. The victory had propelled her to a career-high No. 20 in the WTA rankings, making her the first Filipina to crack the top 20. She had carried that momentum into the Canadian Open in Toronto, where she had advanced to the round of 16 before her 7-match winning streak was snapped by Olympic gold medalist Belinda Bencic. But even in defeat, she had shown the tennis world that she belonged among the best. Her exhaustion had been visible, but so had her resilience. "Having been ranked 140 last year, now I'm 20 and seeded 17 at a WTA 1000, Eala reflected in her pre-tournament press conference. "That's pretty crazy. But I don't want to stop there. I want to keep going. The first round bye was a luxury that high-ranked players like Eala didn't always get. It was a reward for consistency, a recognition that she had arrived as a legitimate force on the tour, and it gave her precious extra time to recover from the grueling North American swing. But the number 17 seed also came with expectations. Eala would begin her campaign in the round of 32 against either Magda Linette of Poland or Elena Gabriela Rus of Romania. She had split her career meetings with Linette but had won both clashes in 2026. Her only match against Rus had gone the other way, a 3-set loss in the 2024 US Open qualifiers. If she got past her opening match, the road ahead was treacherous. Amanda Anisimova, the 9th seed, was the likely opponent in the 3rd round. Wimbledon champion Linda Noskova could await in the 4th round, and Jessica Pegula, the same player Eala had defeated in the Washington final, was projected to be her quarter-final opponent. At the other end of the draw, Aryna Sabalenka or Coco Gauff were the most likely opponents in the final. But Eala wasn't focused on the difficulty of the draw. She was focused on the opportunity. Her number 17 seed was a reminder of how far she had come, and how far she still had to go. "I've come far, but I have still farther to go," she said. The Lindner Family Tennis Center was about to witness the next chapter of the Eala story. And the Filipino community in Ohio, just like the fans in Toronto and Washington, was ready to pack the stands and turn the venue into another home court for their hero. The Eala Effect wasn't just about one tournament. It was about the love of a nation that had found a champion in a 21-year-old from Quezon City. The airport welcome had been unforgettable. The number 17 seed was a career milestone. But when Alex Eala finally sat down to study the Cincinnati Open draw, she realized that her path to glory would be anything but simple. The Lindner Family Tennis Center in Mason, Ohio, was about to host one of the most competitive fields of the season. World No. 1 Aryna Sabalenka, defending champion Iga Swiatek, Australian Open winner Elena Rybakina, and home favorite Coco Gauff were all in the draw. And Eala, despite her career-best seeding, had been handed a route that would test every ounce of her resilience. After receiving a first-round bye as the No. 17 seed, Eala would begin her campaign in the round of 32 against either Magda Linette of Poland or Elena Gabriela Rus of Romania. On paper, it was a manageable opener. But the challenge would escalate quickly. If she got past her opening match, the likely third-round opponent was Amanda Anisimova, the American who would be eager to make an impact on home soil ahead of the US Open. Anisimova, a former Grand Slam semifinalist, was known for her powerful ground strokes and ability to take the ball early. She was the kind of opponent who could end any run in a hurry. Beyond Anisimova, the draw only grew more treacherous. Wimbledon champion Linda Noskova could await in the 4th round. The Czech star had beaten Eala twice before at Indian Wells and in Berlin and had just won her first Grand Slam title at the All England Club. She was a player who had already proven she could handle the biggest stages. And then, projected to be Eala's quarterfinal final opponent, Jessica Pegula. The same Jessica Pegula who Eala had stunned in the Washington final just 2 weeks earlier. The same Jessica Pegula who had beaten Eala in Miami just 17 months ago. The same Jessica Pegula who had won 3 titles in 2026 and was hungry for revenge. Eala had pulled off the impossible once. She had come back from a set down to defeat Pegula 4-6-6-4-6-0 in the Washington final. But doing it again in a quarterfinal of a WTA 1000 event, with a trip to the semifinals on the line, would be an entirely different challenge. The potential semifinal could bring another major test. Iga Swiatek or Elena Rybakina were among the players who could stand in her way. And at the other end of the draw, Aryna Sabalenka or Coco Gauff were the most likely opponents Eala could face in the final. It was a brutal draw. The kind of draw that would have intimidated a player who didn't believe in herself. But Eala, who had already beaten 8 top 10 players in 2026, who had already won her first WTA title, who had already proven that she belonged among the best, wasn't intimidated. "I don't really like to put kind of a cap on what I'm able to do," she had said after her Washington triumph. "I think my primary goal is to play good matches, and at a good level. I think the more I'm able to do that consistently, the more rewarding it is for me." But Eala also knew the toll the grueling North American swing had taken on her. The exhaustion was real. The ankle injury that had threatened to end her Toronto run was a reminder that her body had limits, and she had admitted after the Bencic loss that she needed to prioritize her recovery. Yet, as she studied the draw, Eala was also aware of something else. The Filipino community in Ohio was expected to show up in full force just as they had in Washington and Toronto. The same fans who had packed Sobe Stadium, who had waved Philippine flags from every section, who had turned a Canadian tennis tournament into a celebration of Filipino pride, were ready to do it all over again in Cincinnati. It's an amazing experience. It's nice to see that the Filipino community is really showing up and enjoying tennis. Hopefully, it will help grow the sport as well, Eala said. The draw was brutal. The path was treacherous, but Alex Eala had never backed down from a challenge, and with the support of her fans behind her, she was ready to write the next chapter of her incredible journey. The draw was daunting, the path was treacherous, but Alex Eala had something that no amount of rankings or statistics could measure: the support of a nation. And in Cincinnati, just like in Washington and Toronto, the Filipino community was ready to turn the Lindner Family Tennis Center into a home away from home. Even before a ball was struck in Ohio, Eala was already looking forward to the reception she knew was coming. It's an amazing experience, she said. It's nice to see that the Filipino community is really showing up and enjoying tennis. Hopefully, it will help grow the sport as well, and in the end, give them something new and joyful experience. The fans had already proven their devotion. In Toronto, they had turned SoBi Stadium into what felt like Little Manila, with Philippine flags hanging from every railing, thousands of fans chanting, "Let's go Alex" in unison, and even a food vendor adding chicken adobo and lumpia to the menu, a first in tournament history. The 10,000-seat stadium sold out in just 30 minutes, a feat only Serena Williams had achieved in the last 20 years. Jessica Pegula, who had experienced the Eala Effect firsthand in Washington, had been honest about the atmosphere. "This is the best Monday final crowd I've seen," Pegula said after losing to Eala in the DC Open final. To all the Filipino fans who came out and supported, "You guys are helping grow tennis around the world, and I really appreciate that." The support had even reached Eala's opponents. Caddy McNally, who lost to Eala in Toronto, had walked away with nothing but gratitude for the Filipino fans. Belinda Bencic, the Olympic gold medalist who ended Eala's run, had embraced atmosphere, comparing it to playing against Serena Williams. Coco Gauff had been spotted in a TikTok video with Eala, enjoying ice cream and showing the lighter side of their friendship. Eala, for her part, refused to take all the credit for the phenomenon. "I am kind of just like a drop in the ocean, you know, when it comes to Filipinos and their pride for their culture and where they come from," she said. I do a lot to kind of represent my country, and I'm very proud of it. But you see, the stadium was full of people who do the same thing, right? I guess that just shows you what kind of a community we are, and what kind of a people we are, and how supportive we are of each other." The fans were the fuel that kept the Eala Effect burning. And as she prepared for her Cincinnati debut, she knew they would be there for her once again. "Maraming salamat sa mga kababayan natin sa lahat ng ginawa ninyo mula sa Washington hanggang Toronto, at sa lahat ng gagawin ninyo pa," she said, addressing the Filipino community directly. "Parat kang sumusuporta at nagdarasal. Parati kang nagpupuyat, kaya tuloy-tuloy lang akong magtatrabaho." In the end, the fans were the answer to the question that had haunted the WTA after Eala's Toronto exit. The empty stands at SoBi Stadium hadn't been a sign of disappointment. They had been a testament to a movement that was bigger than any single tournament. And in Cincinnati, that movement was ready to rise again. The airport welcome had been surreal. The NUM17 seating was a career milestone, but now Alex Eala had to prove that she could back it all up on the court. And in Cincinnati, she was determined to do exactly that. After 2 days of rest, a much-needed haircut, and some time with friends, Eala arrived at the Lindner Family Tennis Center with renewed energy. The exhaustion that had been visible in Toronto was gone. The ankle that had been taped up just days earlier was holding. The Filipino community in Ohio had turned out in full force, just as they had in Washington and Toronto. "Maraming salamat sa mga kababayan natin sa lahat ng ginawa ninyo mula sa Washington hanggang Toronto, at sa lahat ng gagawin ninyo pa," Eala had said before the tournament, addressing her kababayan. "Parati kayong sumusuporta at nagdarasal. Parati kayong nagpupuyat, kaya tuloy-tuloy lang akong magtatrabaho." Her first opponent was Magdalena of Poland, a familiar rival. Eala had split their 4 previous meetings but had won both clashes in 2026. The match was a battle, but Eala's resilience shone through. The loss to Bencic in Toronto had been a humbling reminder of what happens when you run out of gas. But in Cincinnati, Eala was determined to prove that she had learned from that experience. After the match, Eala reflected on what she had learned from the grueling 2 weeks. "I'm looking back at these past 2 weeks as a really big positive. I think I've played really well. I've gotten through so many obstacles," she said. "I'm healthy, which is something I'm super grateful for. It's something that's obviously on the top of my priority all the time." The road ahead in Cincinnati was treacherous. Amanda Anisimova, Linda Noskova, and Jessica Pegula were all lurking in her section of the draw. But Eala wasn't focused on the difficulty of the path, she was focused on the opportunity. I'm counting my blessings. I'm taking the lessons that I've had from these 2 weeks and hopefully implementing them even more in a better way in Cincinnati and New York, Eala said. The Eala Effect had arrived in Ohio. The Filipina sensation was back, and she was ready to write the next chapter of her incredible journey.